my.
What is up, YouTube? This is Nanashi with a brand new deck profile video. This time I'll be going back and showing you the updates and adjustments to my Spirit deck. Now, to be perfectly honest, this might be the last time you see this deck because somebody has offered to buy the deck core off of me in cold cash. And I am definitely interested in selling it to him, so this deck might get replaced with something else, or I might rebuild it again later. It's up in the air right now, but for now, let's see where this goes. Starting off, we have the monster lineup, and starting the monster lineup off is the YuGiOh Crane. While it's face up on the field, if you were to normal or special summon another spirit monster, you get to draw a card. Now, this only applies once per turn, but if you have multiple copies, you get multiple shots. Now, YuGiOh Lord of the River is an interesting tech card to put in here too, and it's showing a trend that means that this deck is going more of a control build rather than just a draw spam. When he's summoned, you get to target a monster on the field, it's treated as a spirit, and it returns to the hand at the end of the turn. Then we've got the triple Izanami, or I'm a Nazi if you read her name backwards, and if you take a look, I happen to have an error copy, ironically enough. Now, when she is normal summoned, you can discard a card to add any spirit from your graveyard back to your hand. Then we have Aratama. Upon its summoning, you get to add a spirit monster from your deck to your hand. And then we have Nikitama, honestly probably the best 4-star out of the entire lineup. When it's normal summoned, you get to add a normal summon to your turn, and if it goes to the graveyard, you get to draw a card, but you have to control a spirit. All the spirits up to this point do not have the ability to be special summoned, but the next ones do, and that's because they are ritual spirits. YuGiOh Baron Peacock and YuGiOh Baroness Peacock. They have very similar effects. YuGiOh Baron says that if it's summoned, you get to return 3 monsters your opponent controls to the hand and then special summon a spirit from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. YuGiOh Baroness, however, says that when she's summoned, you get to return 3 spell traps your opponent controls back to the deck, and then special summon a spirit from the deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. They also both have the effect that says that when they return to the hand at the end of the turn, and yes, they do still do this, you get to special summon 2 tokens of 1500 attack and defense, 4-star winged beast. Next we move into the spell lineup, starting with another symbol that this deck's starting to go into more of a controlling aspect, Creature Swap at 2. Both players give control of a monster to the opponent, and this does not target the monsters, it targets the player. Double Dark Hole, obviously. Foolish Burial. This card is exclusively in here just to send Nikitama to the graveyard if I happen to control a spirit monster, because that automatically gives me a draw, so it's a literal 1-for-1. Pre-Preparation of Rites. You add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and then you add a ritual monster from your deck or graveyard to the hand that is listed on that ritual spell, which means that it can search YuGiOh Baron or YuGiOh Baroness from the deck or graveyard to the hand. The perfect addition to the deck. Still running 2 copies of Rank Up Magic 7th one for this deck and this deck alone right now, purely because the one that I run in the extra deck is the harshest in terms of its punishing effect. Snowbird's Calling is of course the ritual spell that goes with those 2 ritual monsters. What's interesting about this card is not only does it call out both monsters, but it does have the ability to banish spirit monsters out of the graveyard as part of its ritual cost, which automatically makes the Nikitama drop off of Foolish Burial even more valuable if necessary. And then double Twin Twisters. Obviously it's my replacement for MST, but I do drop Nikitama with this as well. And then we finish off the main deck with the trap card lineup. Starting off with a single bottomless trap hole, staple in all my decks. Double Jar of Avarice, returning 5 cards from the graveyard back to the decks to draw a card, completely warranted given how often I burn through my monster and spell support. Triple Legacy of Yatagarasu, which is perfectly warranted for the Creature Swap and YuGiOh combo. If you activate this card, you get to draw a card, which makes it Jar of Greed, but the big deal is that if your opponent controls a spirit monster, you get to draw 2. So creature swapping your monster to your opponent, or playing YuGiOh on one of their monsters, makes this card an automatic +1. Solemn Warning, stable in everyone's deck. And Transmigration Prophecy, which I am partnering with 2 Jar of Avarice in pretty much any deck that I see it in. Mainly this is just to return the Jar of Avarices to the deck, but I do sometimes use it to mess with my opponent and remove their grave targets. Next we move into the side deck, starting with the 3rd copy of YuGiOh, the 3rd copy of YuGiOh Crane, a pair of Hinokagutsuchi, which honestly was just more of a drop target for certain draw cards, but I do use him in battle sometimes. Just like the level 4 spirits, he has to return to the hand at the end phase that he's summoned, and he cannot be special summoned. But if he does battle damage, then right before your opponent draws on their next turn, they have to drop their entire hand and only rely on that single top deck. The third copy of Creature Swap's also here, as well as the triple trade-in, which is the draw card that I mainly use for Hinokagutsuchi, dropping an 8-star to draw 2 cards. Although I sometimes use this on the ritual monster if I don't happen to have the ritual spell yet, which is why I have a pair of each. Compulsory, double Fiendish Chain, double Memory Loss, Mirror Force, and Torrential. And then finishing off, we have the honestly unnecessary extra deck. It's more or less just here to give me field presence during my opponent's turn. We have the Fairy Cheer Girl, who can detach to draw a card, and if you happen to detach Nikitama from it while you control another spirit monster, you get a double draw, which is mainly the reason I run it. We also have a triple 39 Utopia, which no explanation is really needed, but you can detach to negate an attack. Then we have the 104 Masquerade, which is half of the 7th one target. Now, it requires 3 level 4s, which means it's difficult to summon, but not impossible. In addition, during either player's battle phase, you can detach a material to negate an opponent's activated monster effect and then deal them 800 damage. And you can mill a card from your opponent's deck once per turn, but it's not really that good. Then we have the number C39 Utopia Ray. You can detach a material when you have 1,000 or less life points, decrease an opponent's monster's attack points by 1,000, and increase his attack points by 500. You can do this more than once per turn, provided the activation requirements are still good. In addition, he can be stacked on top of a Utopia monster you control as an Exceed summon material, instead of using the 3 level 4 lights. Very similar to the summoning conditions of number S39 Utopia Prime, but here's the big difference on its effects. You have to wait until your opponent's life points are at least 3,000 higher than yours, you have to triple detach, and then you have to put yourself to 10 life points, which means its effect is very fickle. But you get to banish all your opponent's special summon monsters, and then you deal 300 damage to them for each one you banished. Number C104 Umbral Horror Masquerade is the other half of that 7th one target, and again, it's one of the most harsh ones out of the 7. When it's summoned, you blow up a spell trap, and then during either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated, you get to detach a material, negate the effect, discard a card from your opponent's hand, and then if you do both of those, you get to have your opponent's life points. And this thing has 3,000 attack points as well, so it's not exactly lacking anywhere. Then we have the double S39 Utopia the Lightning. Everyone's seen this card before. You stack it on top of a Utopia monster, which is the main reason that number S39 and C39 are in here, is to be stack targets. But in addition, when it attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects, and you can double detach during other player's battle phase, provided you have a Utopia monster on it as a material, to make its attack points 5,000 for the turn. And then we have number 99 Utopic Dragon. This is another reason that I like having 7th one in here, because if I dead draw it, it's not necessarily a dead card. You can summon this by using a Utopia monster you control and by dropping a rank up magic spell from your hand. If it's targeted with a monster's effect, you can detach to negate it, and once per turn you get to summon an Xyz monster from your graveyard for free with no materials in defense mode. And my favorite card out of this, and I am grateful for the reprint, S0 Utopic Zexal. You can stack it on top of a Utopia monster also by discarding a rank up spell. When it's summoned, your opponent can't activate anything and its summon cannot be negated. And during your opponent's turn, you can detach a material. They cannot activate cards or effects for the turn. That is incredibly destructive to most players. In addition, he gains 1,000 attack and defense for each material he has. So ideally, this would put him at about 4,000 attack points if you included both the materials to summon to Utopia and the card you stacked on top of it. And that is the deck. Honestly, it's a very rare occurrence that anybody wants to buy one of my decks, but I know the person who wants to buy this very well. He and I have been playing cards together for a very long time, and it's good to me to know that it's going to go to a good home and not just be scrapped for card parts. So I hope this deck treats you as well as it's treated me over the last several months and several years off and on that I've built and rebuilt it. And who knows, I might rebuild it again on my own someday, but for now, I'm just glad to see it go to someone who wants to play it all the time. I hope you guys like the deck profile, and if you can think of any way that my friend can help to build this deck any better, or me if I ever choose to rebuild it, feel free to let me know. But in the meantime, this has been Nanashi, signing out.
What's the next stage? What's the next stage?